Welcome to Crosstalk Solutions. My name's Chris, and today we're going to be taking a look at a selection of products from EnGenius. And you might be saying, Chris, EnGenius, you've never done any EnGenius products on your channel before, and you're absolutely right. And as a matter of fact, I've worked with some EnGenius products in the past, probably 4 to 5 years ago, and I was not impressed with their product lineup way back when. So full caveat going into this video is that I am going to be looking to be impressed, like super impressed by this equipment in order to be able to possibly recommend it to you guys on YouTube. So I've never worked with EnGenius in the past few years. Let's see how far they've come, because they've got some new interesting products that we're going to take a look at, including some Wi-Fi 6 stuff, which everyone has been clamoring about online. So with those caveats, EnGenius did send me all of this equipment. However, my opinions are my own, and so while I certainly appreciate that they sent me the equipment, I will give them a fair shake and see how far they've come in terms of providing some business solutions, as it says on their box, business solutions, right? All right, so let's take a quick look at what we have here. First and foremost, we have the EnGenius SkyKey. Does that sound familiar? Certainly sounds like a cloud key, doesn't it? And that's basically exactly what this is. This is an on-site wireless controller that also connects out to the EnGenius cloud, which can be found at cloud.engenius.ai. So basically what you do is you sign up for an account at cloud.engenius.ai. That is a free service that allows you to then have a SkyKey on site at your client's location, and you can manage multiple sites through not only the SkyKey, but also their more enterprise level access point controller software, although the name of that more enterprise level software escapes me at the moment. With this SkyKey, you can manage up to 100 devices per location. The SkyKey itself is $98.99 on Amazon. I will have links to all of these products down below, so while this is very similar to Ubiquiti's Cloud Key, the price is a lot less. So Ubiquiti's Cloud Key, the Gen 2 Cloud Key is 179 bucks. This one is 98 bucks. All right, so let's pop this thing open. And yeah, really not much to it. We've got the some screw. Oh, it's magnetic. That's interesting, because the screws were sticking to it. So we've got some drywall anchors and screws, and then it tells us that we can get remote access. And here's sort of the quick start guide. And here is the SkyKey itself. So EnGenius SkyKey 1, we have some wall mount holes on the back. We have a micro SD card, a reset button, a power button, a recessed power. Oh no, that must not be a power button. That must be a power plug. So it's not a power button, but you can plug it in. And then we have LAN 1, which takes PoE. I think it's 802.3 AF PoE. And then we have a LAN 2 port as well. So why you would need both a LAN 1 and a LAN 2 port on this thing, I'm not exactly sure, but it is magnetic. Whoop. It doesn't really stick very well to my knife here, but it is definitely magnetic. You can see with the screws, they stick to the device. So I guess you could sort of stick this to the, the side of your, rack or something like that, or you can wall mount it. There's the SkyKey. Now what we're gonna do is just unbox all this stuff real quick, and then we will take a look. I'll get everything set up, and then we will take a look at the EnGenius interface and sort of evaluate how it looks from there. All right, next we have this guy right here. This is the EnGenius ECS 1008P. This is an 8-port managed switch with PoE. So it looks like a fairly standard 8-port switch. It also looks like it can do PoE across all 8 ports. The switch is $128.95. And we just have 8 gigabit ports. That's it. We've got a DC in power on the back and an on-off switch. Yeah, really not much to this switch. This is the ECS 1008P. Also in the box, we have a power brick. And then it looks like we have some rubber feet for the thing as well, if you want to have it on the desk, as well as a couple screws for wall mounting. Does it have holes for wall mounting? It does have holes for wall mounting as well. We're working up to the Wi-Fi 6 stuff. Here is the N-Turbo EAP1250 wireless access point. This wireless access point is $73.50. This is an 802.11 AC Wave 2 4x4 multi-user MIMO access point. And again, $73.50 is not a bad price for a 4x4 multi-user MIMO access point. So yeah, that's pretty good. We'll see how it performs, but where'd I put my knife? Oh, it's tiny. Optimize your hardware. Easy Master. Okay, so Easy Master, that's the name of that enterprise controller that I couldn't remember earlier. So this is a little advertisement for the Easy Master controller, as well as the Easy Wi-Fi Planner subscription-free wireless network design. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Looks like they have a tool online that you can use for laying out your wireless network, and it shows you the coverage map and whatnot. All right, that's great. Oop, I didn't mean to throw the box with all the stuff in it. Okay, so, boy, this thing is lightweight. Wow, this is a really lightweight little access point. It's got 1 gigabit Ethernet port, model EAP1250, and then it has a power and a power like for DC power or AC power, and then a little hole for resetting the thing. It does come with a power brick, so that's interesting. So it comes with a power brick if you're not going to use PoE, which is interesting. It's interesting to have a power brick included and then separately include AC power instead of just having a PoE injector. But I don't know if that's maybe how they keep the cost lower or something like that. But this access point features a quad-core ARM Cortex A7 CPU at 717 megahertz. So little quad ARM CPU inside the box, and looks like we have a couple of different mounting options. Yeah, so this looks like this is for T-bar mounting. So it has 2 sizes of T-bar mounting brackets that are included. Okay, now I can get rid of this box. So there is the EAP1250 4x4 multi-user MIMO 802.11 AC Wave 2 access point, indoor access point. I'll put that over here. And then finally, we have the piece de resistance. This is the ECW230 Wi-Fi 6 access point. So this is 802.11 AX 4x4 multi-user MIMO. It's got a quad-core ARM Cortex A53S processor running at 2 gigahertz. So there's some power inside this thing. This also has a 10/100/1000/2500, so a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet connection on the back of this thing. It can have up to 8 SSIDs, and oh yeah, so this one's a heftier access point for sure. We have our quick start guide, and then this one does not come with a power bracket, but does come with the same 2 T-bar mounts and the screws if you want to mount it to the wall. Wow, so let's take a look at this one. Ooh, it's got like a metal back here. So metal back, you got your T-bar mounts, and there's also, looks like, wall mount holes on the back of this thing. We've got our 2.5 gig LAN port, and then we do have a 12 volt DC input if you need to use that, and a little reset hole. So this is the one that I'm most excited about. This is also the one that's most expensive. This was not on Amazon yet. I had very tough time finding any pricing on this. The one price that I did find on this device put this access point at $550. So yeah, that's quite an investment for an access point, but it's also 802.11 AX, and it's got the 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port in the back. So I like both of those features quite a bit, and I think it's going to come down to taking a look at the interface and seeing how to manage these devices and what options are available inside the EnGenius cloud. So let's do that next. I'm going to get all of this stuff set up. Now, I don't have a firewall, so what I'll probably use is that Cisco RV firewall that I did a review on recently. I'll just use that as my firewall, and then we'll set up the EnGenius cloud as if I'm setting this up for like a small business customer. And all right, let's go ahead and get started. I've now had a couple of days with this equipment set up, and the setup itself was actually pretty easy. In fact, in order to get these cloud devices connected to the cloud service, the EnGenius cloud service, there's a little QR code on the bottom of each of these devices that allows you to just use the phone app and scan in the QR code. And then once you've scanned in the QR code, you basically just add it to whichever network, like if you're an MSP and you've got 10 different clients, you just add it to whichever one of your clients that device is destined to be installed at. That's all well and good, except I did run across something very interesting. They sent me 4 pieces of equipment. We've got the SkyKey, we've got this EAP 1250, we have the ECS 1008P switch, and we have the Wi-Fi 6 ECW 230 access point. Only the AX access point and the 8-port switch are their cloud devices, right? So these are devices that can be connected directly to the cloud. The SkyKey and this older access point, I don't even know if it's older, but it's certainly not a Wi-Fi 6 access point. These are meant to be on site. So what we're looking at here is essentially 2 completely different product sets. We have the SkyKey, which is an on-site controller, much like Ubiquiti's Cloud Key. And then this access point connects up to the SkyKey and is managed by the SkyKey. Of course, separately, you can also manage the access point, the EAP 1250 access point, all by itself on the interface. But if you have multiple access points that you're doing a bigger deployment for, you're going to want the SkyKey, and that SkyKey can then group these access points so that the settings can be consistent across all of the access points at any particular site. However, this access point, the EAP 1250, cannot be adopted directly to EnGenius's cloud. Okay, those are only the cloud devices. So this can be adopted to the SkyKey, and then the SkyKey can be shown in the cloud interface, but like this access point doesn't show up in cloud interface statistics or anything. You have to first click into this SkyKey and remotely manage it, which can be done through EnGenius Cloud. But once you're remotely managing this SkyKey, then you have access to change these devices. So that's confusing, right? I will show that to you a little bit more in depth when we actually look at the interfaces of these 2 product sets. But it's almost like, in Ubiquiti world, there's Unify products and then there's EdgeMax products. And there's a lot of overlap between those 2 product sets, but ultimately they are 2 completely separate product sets, and it's kind of confusing to know the difference between the 2. Same thing here. We have these devices here, the SkyKey and the EAP 1250, which are meant to be sort of on-site, where you have a local GUI, the local GUI of the access point itself, or the local GUI of the SkyKey. And then you have these cloud products over here, which get you a much fancier interface, but there's no local controller, right? These are only controlled by the cloud. So pluses and minuses to each, right? If you like to have a local device that can manage your access points and not have to be dependent on any sort of cloud service, then you're going to want to go for this equipment over here with the SkyKey and the EAP 1250 or sort of this product set. And if you want to just have everything cloud managed with a sort of more current and fancier interface, then you would get the cloud stuff. But again, you're not going to have a local controller for the cloud equipment. So yeah, it's sort of a choice that you're going to have to make if you decide to resell these products. I would not probably mix and match these too much. If you're an MSP, for instance, I would standardize on one set or the other just to make your life easier and make things a lot less confusing. Okay, so with all of that being said, let's switch over to my desktop where we can actually take a look at the separate interfaces for both of these product sets. Taking a quick look at EnGenius's website, we can see if you click on Solutions, you've got your EnGenius Cloud. That's one product set. Then you've got the EnSky on-premises product set. We're going to take a look at both of the interfaces for both of those product sets in this video. But let's take a look at the hardware available in both, because there is ample hardware available for both of these product sets. Again, though, you got to know which product set you're buying into and try not to mix and match, or at least I wouldn't mix and match if I were an MSP trying to sell EnGenius hardware. So we click on the cloud solution and then hardware, scroll down to the bottom, and we can see plenty of devices. So they've got 4 different indoor access points. 2 of them are Wi-Fi 6. You've got an 8x and a 4x. Then we have 2 that are 802.11 AC Wave 2. One is a ceiling mount, and one is a wall plate, right? So something like you'd have on the wall of a hotel room or something like that. They also have 1 outdoor access point. It's a 4x4 802 AC Wave 2, 802.11 AC Wave 2 outdoor access point. And then they've got 6 different switches, a couple of 8 ports, 24 port, 48 port, and then they've got their bigger switches that have like 8 PoE++ ports and 4 10 gig SFP+ uplinks. So that's sort of a big switch, right? That's sort of your core switch, if you will. Yeah, there it is. So 8 PoE++ and 4 SFP+. Now, if we switch over to the on-premises stuff, this is where you're going to buy your SkyKey, and then you're going to get your indoor and outdoor access points. And they actually have a lot more products, because I think this is a more mature product line. I think it's been around longer. So if we look at indoor access points, for instance, they've got the nSky Pro, where they've got 4, 8, 9, or I should say 8 different access points and a camera. Different form factors. We've got 2 Wi-Fi 6 access points, some 4x4, 2x2, 3x3s, all sorts of basically anything you'd want. And then we come down here, we have the nSky, so the non-pro versions. This is the one that I have, the EAP 1250. They have 802.11 AC stuff, no Wi-Fi 6 in the non-pro devices. And then you've also got outdoor access points, a whole bunch of different outdoor access points. Let's take a look at those. So again, 8, 9 different outdoor access points. No, more than that, because they've got the Pro and the regular as well. And a lot of overlap here on these access points. And then again, also a ton of switches. So you can have switches, access points, indoor, outdoor, Pro, non-Pro, AX, AC. They've got everything that you would possibly need for on-premises, and a growing list of things in the cloud-based products. All right, let's take a look at these interfaces, though. Here I am logged into the dashboard of the EnGenius Cloud, and we can see everything is okay. I've got 1 switch showing up. I've only got 1 access point showing up. That's my Wi-Fi 6 access point, because remember, the other one is controlled by the SkyKey. Now, I can click over here, and I can see that SkyKey, and from here, I can connect to the SkyKey. So if I had this at a customer premise, I can log into the EnGenius Cloud, I can see all of the different SkyKeys that I have out at client sites, and I can connect to each one individually to manage those devices. But when I click on the dashboard of the EnGenius Cloud, those access points and switches behind the SkyKeys don't show up in the EnGenius Cloud. Okay, so that's like a totally separate thing. So it's kind of like half mixed together, I guess you would say. So you can come over here to the SkyKeys. Let's go ahead and connect to this SkyKey that I've got sitting over here. And here's the interface for the SkyKey. We can see that I have 1 access point that is managed by this SkyKey. I have 1 project. Now, projects are what we would think of in Ubiquiti world as sites. And so I've just created 1 site or 1 project here. It's called Crosstalk Project. And if we click in the Crosstalk project, we can see all of the devices that I have connected to this cloud key, which in this case is just a single EAP 1250 access point. I've grouped that access point. So from here, you can either manage the access points individually, or you can add them to various access point groups, which is basically all of the rules and SSIDs and everything that you want for a set of access points rather than an individual access point. So let's take a look at our main access point group so we can do some of the configuring. Notice too that this looks like an older interface, right? This does not look as snazzy as the EnGenius Cloud interface, because I believe this is more of a legacy product. Member setting, we can see which devices are members of this group. LAN port settings are not applicable to this access point. We've got wireless radio settings where you can set your country, your channel width, etc. And then here we have our SSIDs. So we can have up to 8 SSIDs. And let's take a look at, for instance, the SkyKey Guest, which I have running on VLAN 10 off of the Cisco RV firewall that I'm using for this demo. And so I've created an SSID. I've chosen 2.4 and 5 gigahertz for this SSID. I can enable L2 isolation or add whitelisted devices. So for instance, if I wanted L2 isolation, but I had a printer that I wanted to be shared, I can I can whitelist the MAC address of the printer so that all devices would be able to print to that printer. That's a pretty cool feature. And then band steering, enable or disable. They do have captive portal functionality. I didn't set it up on the SkyKey, but I did set up captive portal in EnGenius Cloud, so we'll take a look at it there. Traffic shaping, so I've locked this SSID down so that it's 10 megs download and 2 megs upload, and you can choose whether that's a per user or per SSID setting. So in this case, we'll be nice and we'll say it's per user. And hook it up to radius, MAC filtering, security, everything that you would want is already here. Let's go ahead and save those settings. We also have some advanced settings such as controlling the LED and the management VLAN, things like that. Oh, as well as mesh. You can do mesh settings down below. The rest of this stuff is just monitoring. So statistics and monitoring, visualizing, topology view, which is not going to be very exciting because I just have a single access point. We've got a map view, a floor plan view. You can upload a floor plan. You can look at your mesh topology, statistics for access points, statistics for clients. You've got your captive portal, and then your firmware updates and logging and stuff like that. So again, this is a very basic interface. Now, this will do everything that you want it to do, right? And you look at the price of like that 4x4 multi-user MIMO access point, it's like 70, whatever it was, 73, 74 bucks for that thing. That's like half the price of Ubiquiti's closest 4x4 multi-user MIMO access point. Okay, so if you're just looking for a cheap solution for a lot of clients, this will get the job done for sure. It's not as pretty as something like Ubiquiti. It's not even as pretty as the EnGenius Cloud, but it will definitely get the job done. All right, so let's switch back to the EnGenius Cloud. All right, here we go. So again, we can see it looks pretty, and as a matter of fact, they even got 3 green bubbles. Where have we seen that before, right? That looks pretty familiar. We've got our switches, our access points, and our clients. Now, while we do see switches in here, one thing that I was a little bit disappointed about is that the EnGenius Cloud focuses on Wi-Fi, right? So there are no EnGenius firewalls. They have switches and they have access points, and then cameras and I guess a few other things. But for the most part, everything that you see in here focuses solely on wireless access points and wireless clients. So for instance, down here we have throughput. We can see that I currently have one wireless client connected. This is going to show me my SSIDs, but I also have a wired client connected. I have a wired client plugged into this switch, but there's nowhere in here that I could find statistics for wired clients. Again, this is very focused on wireless only. If we scroll down, we can see our top access points, our top clients, top utilized SSIDs. We can see OS, operating system statistics, application statistics, and the application is, this sort of DPI, if you will, can be turned on or off. We'll take a look at that in a second. We can also manage our access points, switches, or topology. We can also see all of the details about our clients. Now, these things here, access points, switches, and clients, are also right here. If I click on access points, switches, or clients, I get to those same menus. So let's take a look at access points, for instance. Here we can see my ECW230 running at channel 6 in the 2.4 gigahertz and channel 149 in the 5 gigahertz. And if we come over here, we can click on details, and we get a lot of our wireless statistics. 2.4 gigabit and 5 gigabit throughput, CPU and memory graphs, and we have our SSID information. Scrolling down, we have information about the radios. If we wanted to set channels manually, that's where we'd do it. If we wanted to set static IP addresses on the device, that's where we would do it. But this is not where we set up our SSIDs and whatnot. This is just information about the specific access points. If I click on the gear icon, now is where we can configure our SSID. So let's take a look at that. And again, let's take a look at the guest SSID because that's the one I have running on a separate VLAN. It's a little bit more interesting than the other one. It is enabled. You can hide the SSID. You can choose which radios are enabled, the type of security that you have. Again, in this case, it's open security. I've got a captive portal running on it. You got 802.11r fast roaming, 802.11w protected managed frame. And then if we click on advanced, we can see layer 2 isolation. Interestingly, though, there's no MAC address whitelist for the layer 2 isolation like there was in the SkyKey. So that's kind of interesting. You can select your VLAN. And one thing that is kind of cool is that as you change password and settings, the Wi-Fi access QR code actually updates and changes. So like if I go to WPA2 and then start typing in a password, right? The QR code actually changes as you do that, which is kind of neat. And I guess the QR code you can print and then give that out to people to have them connect to Wi-Fi. We've got traffic shaping. So I've got, again, this set up as 10 megabits or 2 megabits, and I will set it as per user in order to be nice, so we're not just locking down the entire SSID to that amount of bandwidth. Let me apply that. Notice up here by apply to, they have a clone from button. That's always nice. When you've got settings that you like that are already set up in another network, you can bring those settings over to this network. Let's take a look at our captive portal. I've got it enabled. It's just a straight click through, but there's a lot of options here. Voucher service, custom radius, social login, EnGenius authentication, as well as some advanced settings for session timeout and whatnot. Then you could design your own splash page here. I put in a logo earlier. Now it's not showing my logo. Let's see if I can add that back. Insert image. All right, so it's in there. It's a little squashed. Let's see, I guess I can get rid of the old image. Oh, I don't know how this works. Well, anyways, you can kind of design your captive portal, I guess, is the point here. Yeah, it looks a little goofy, but again, with some HTML or whatever, you can do your own splash page through here, or of course, you can just do an external splash page, which is typically what we would do. You've got scheduling, so schedule your Wi-Fi on and off, and then we've got access control, which allows you to block specific MAC addresses if you need to. Radio settings allows us to choose, where we are, the channel width, the channel of our radios, etc. Then you've got radius users. You can do firmware upgrades, alert settings. The alert settings are neat because you've got different alert settings for access points versus switches. Then we have our different VLANs, so I've just added a secondary VLAN for the guest network. Switch settings. There are a lot of switch settings in here, even though the focus for this product is not on the switches themselves. It does have spanning tree. You can set up a voice VLAN, and there's looks like some pre-configured OUIs down here. Set up your quality of service if you want. IGMP snooping, jumbo frames. So there's your switch options. Not a ton, but there are some in there. And then, of course, you can also configure your switches. So if I configure this device here we can see for instance, different VLANs that things are a member of. So I've got VLAN 1 is untagged on ports 1 through 8, and VLAN 10 is tagged on ports 1 through 8 as well. That threw me off at first, by the way. I thought that it would just automatically tag any VLANs that I had set up. It did not. So it did automatically give me VLAN 1 is untagged across all ports, but I had to come in here and figure out how to tag VLAN 10 on these ports, and you can kind of just do it like this. And then, of course, save that. System settings, port settings. Again, not a ton of stuff that you can do with the switches, but, a switch is a switch. It's got enough, right? This definitely has enough. General settings shows us our settings for our different networks, which, by the way, can be found up here. So, for instance, I have a Crosstalk Solution organization, Crosstalk Solutions, the organization, and then various networks associated with that organization. I can add new organizations. I can add new networks through this interface. For each different network, I can choose which time zone the network is in, and that will, of course, update the switches and access points to that time zone as well. Then we have our event logs. Down here at the bottom, I can add users to the EnGenius cloud, and you can choose which networks those users can administer or even view, I believe. And then we have our inventory, which shows us all of our devices across all of our networks, and then we can, basically when you scan devices using the QR code, they show up here, and then you can assign them out to whichever networks they need to belong to. The notion being that you can buy these products, set up your client's networks, receive the products, scan them in, attach them to your client's network, and then ship them to your client or just go deliver them to your client somehow. The client plugs them in and they work perfectly in that client's network. So I do like all of that. I think that's great. This is a pretty big step forward versus the SkyKey stuff. Again, there's pluses and minuses to each side. On premises, you have local GUI control over groups of access points and switches. The cloud management requires the cloud, right? So you have to have internet access in order to administer this stuff. But the interface on the cloud side is more current, it's snazzier, and I just like it better. I find myself enjoying the cloud interface not nearly as much as I enjoy the cloud interface much more than I enjoy the SkyKey interface. So, final thoughts about the EnGenius products. They're cost effective. I should say some of them are cost effective, right? Like the 4x4 multi-user MIMO stuff for like sub $100. That's really great if you need to have a very powerful access point for cheap. Some of these other access points, though, are not so cheap. That Wi-Fi 6 access point, the ECW230, is $550. And I saw that online, but I could only find it one place. So I confirmed with the EnGenius rep that sent me this stuff that, yeah, MSRP on that thing is $550, right? Whereas like, you know, the Alien, the Amplify Alien from Unify is Wi-Fi 6. It's got all the stuff, you know, switches and everything built in plus Wi-Fi 6. And I think it was, what, $399 for the Alien? I don't remember exactly offhand what it was, but it's much cheaper than just a single EnGenius Wi-Fi 6 Pro access point. Both of these platforms have all of the settings that most people would ever need. So if you were an MSP and you were looking to standardize on something cost-effective, this works. Okay, it's not nearly as full-featured and robust as some other settings out there, or some other, you know, products that are out there, but this will work for you just fine. Now let's talk about performance. Of course, we like to do speed tests. So let's run some speed tests across Wi-Fi 6. In fact, I'm going to disconnect the SkyKey and the EAP1250 access point just so that we're not getting any sort of interference. Let me do that real quick. All right, so the other EnGenius access point is off, so I'm only using Wi-Fi 6, and if we look here, we can see that my Wi-Fi card is connected at 802.11ax. By the way, looking at this in the task manager is a tip that I learned when I did the Alien video, so thank you for whomever pointed that out. You can see what your connection type is. In this case, we can see I'm connected at 802.11ax. on my Wi-Fi 6 adapter. So let's run some speed tests. So we're going to say iperf-c 192.168.201.130. iperf 3. There we go. So connected. And from point A to point B, which these things are about 6 feet apart, I'm pulling about 344 megabits per second from my antenna on the back of my computer over to the access point. And keep in mind, just like with the Alien testing, this is not necessarily the most fair test of Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6 is made for multiple clients. It's got a lot of lanes in the highway, in the bandwidth highway, and my car is only taking up one lane, right? So I'm not expecting to get multi-gigabit performance when I run these tests. But 344 megabits per second is a little bit low. That's a little bit lower than we saw with Ubiquiti's, the Amplify Alien. I was getting higher speeds when I was testing this earlier, so let me just sort of move this thing around back where it used to be. Because as we know, Wi-Fi placement is important. So I kind of just put it a little bit where it has a little bit better line of sight to my antenna down on my computer. Let's run that again and see what we get. You have about 340 megabits per second on the Wi-Fi 6 adapter. Now, let's do a reverse test, see if it makes any difference. So reverse coming from my server over here over to the Wi-Fi 6 adapter, about 310 megabits per second. By the way, I should explain that I have a Pop! OS PC over here running iPerf. It is wired directly into the EnGenius switch. Also wired into that EnGenius switch is the ECW230 access point, and then I have a Wi-Fi 6 adapter on my Windows 10 PC that is wirelessly connected to that Wi-Fi 6 access point. And I have my Ethernet, my hardwired Ethernet, disabled. Now let's do a multi-stream test. -R, we'll get rid of the -R. Let's do a -P6. That's going to do 6 simultaneous threads, if you will. Which, again, is going to be limited by the capacity of my own adapter, my wireless adapter. But we'll do it anyways. So here we can see 6 threads going, and we're getting faster speeds now. So look at that. We're getting about 450 megabits per second. So total aggregate of 439 megabits per second. Let's try that one more time without the -P6. See if it's gone up again for my regular client test. And it has not. So I'm getting just about 350 megabits per second just running from my computer over to the Wi-Fi 6 access point. And if I do 6 threads, it's actually pulling about 450 megabits per second. 434 in that case. Let's go back over to the EnGenius cloud and let's look at the dashboard because you'll be able to see a visualization of the traffic here. So right over here, you can see it's just starting to come in, the traffic and the test that I was running. Let me do one other test. This will be an interesting one. I have my phone connected to that network. Oh, no, it switched to a different network. Let me put it back on the EnGenius network. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to run a speed test out to the internet from my iPhone. At the same time, I'm going to run this multi-threaded test, iPerf test from my desktop over to the Wi-Fi 6 adapter. So here we go. Starting speed test, go. And as soon as it starts going, boom, I'm going to hit it here and let's see what we get. So notice that it dropped down pretty significantly. Oh, actually, I take that back. It didn't drop down that bad. It dropped down while the speed test was running on my phone. So notice the aggregate was 385, but right at the beginning, it was like 197 megabits per second, 276 megabits per second, and then it came back up as soon as the download portion of the speed test was completed from my phone. From my phone, I got 144 megabits by 22, which I have a 400 by 20 cable connection from Charter Spectrum. So 144 megabits to my phone and 450, about 400 to 450 megabits from my desktop PC. And there's your speed test. There you have it, a look at some of the products from EnGenius. It doesn't matter what I think about these products. What do you guys think about these products? Put that down in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, please click subscribe. My name's Chris with Crosstalk Solutions, and thank you so much for watching.